All right, welcome to the Covert Access Team podcast. Today we're joined by Katerina Shevchenko, a penetration tester and team lead operating out of Kazakhstan, who is in the Ferrari's Responsible Disclosure Hall of Fame and is the first female OSCP certified in her country, among many applications that she actually has. She has quite a few. Her work has been featured in multiple publications around the world. She hosts webinars on security, runs a YouTube channel, and has spoken at many conferences. So thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, Brian, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you. So can you start off by telling us just a little bit about yourself and how you got to where how did you get to be the first female in your country to have the OSCP?
That definitely wasn't a clear roadmap. Um, so yeah, a little backstory. I hope that won't be too long. As a teenager, I was kept changing my idea of a future career, and I've never considered IT, which is like funny in hindsight because almost all my hobbies were connected to computers one way or another. So in my final years at school, I was actually preparing for the medical school. And around that time, there was a news report about actually medicine data breach. I had never heard of the site before, but I'm not going into get into morals of this situation, but it made me think about how blindly we trust our data to some websites and how little control regular users actually have when something goes wrong. So that curiosity pushed me to start reading about cybersecurity. I wanted to understand what real hacking looks like, not the movie version. And yes, I watched Mr. Robot. At the beginning of my career, I was a bit embarrassed to mention that. I didn't want to sound like a script kiddie, but not anymore. And then I discovered penetration testing as a profession, and it felt like eureka moment for me because I realized this matched how I always approach my hobbies, like very much let's push this button and see what it does, what happens. Yeah, it's kind of mindset. I changed my plans almost last minute and enrolled into IT university in cybersecurity program. We were only like third intake, so the program was constantly evolving. Um, it still gave me a solid foundation on like networking, operation systems, programming, but most of like security courses were like about defensive side, and I knew that I wanted to learn offensive side of it. So I took that into my own hands and started like self-studying and practicing on Hack the Box. At that time, I guess it was most popular platform. I still like remember the first time I got a shell. At that moment, I felt like I could do anything. So, yeah, by my third year, I started to look for internships. There weren't like not a lot of companies that had like dedicated cybersecurity teams, and much more less that could take interns. And then COVID hit. So almost all opportunities disappeared. And I decided, like, okay, let's use this quarantine time to work on my portfolio. At least that's the minimum I can do. So I started like documenting my studies, like if I will walk through the box or something like learn about new vulnerability, I would make a post about it on GitHub and also share it on my LinkedIn. And I actually thought it would be just a part of my resume, but then I got a DM from CEO of one of well known companies of cybersecurity in Kazakhstan, and I was invited to the interview for internship. So yeah, like it didn't felt real at that time because it was one of my like target companies that I would like to work for. The interview was the same day. I had to skip a class. So yeah, I passed the interview, got the internship, and a month later I got junior position. I was mainly working on web application penetration testing, sometimes LL infrastructure. And like also during my first year, I was also working like preparing for OSCP exam and also working on my diploma work. So yeah, it was a busy year. And I finally, after my graduation, I got also OSCP exam scheduled. And at that time, like right before the exam, my colleagues approached me and told me like, do you know if you will pass this exam, you will be the first woman in Kazakhstan to do so? I didn't know, so no pressure at all, right? Um, so yeah, I passed it on a first attempt. I was, and turned out that I'm actually first woman not only in Kazakhstan but also in Central Asia. So it was really proud moment for me, but mostly I was surprised that no one had done it before. But I think the reason was that at that time there were a lot of um, female contesters in that region. So yeah, like after some time, um, I actually like there are a lot more right now, and I'm super proud of it. And I was approached several times from by like junior pen testers, and they told me that they started considering this job because they read my interview. So at this moment, this case was not like the certification, but it felt much more bigger impact, not only on my life, but also of the lives of other people. Yeah, so after that, I spent several years like deepening my expertise, exploring other testing areas, pursuing like more specialized certifications, and also moving into leadership roles like leading projects, mentoring others. So eventually, I was invited to another company as a team lead. So now it's like my fifth year in the industry. And honestly, I still feel like there is a lot of for me to learn and try. I like that idea that your 20s are for scattering stones and your 30s are for gathering them. So I'm still very much in my scattering phase. So yeah, that's a little bit of my
Well,
background.
no, it's a very impressive journey. I mean, especially considering that, I knew that you were, the first female to get your OSCP in your country. I didn't realize it was the first one in all of, Central Asia. That's very impressive.
Thank you.
So, what is it like to be a pen tester, especially a female pen tester in Kazakhstan? Is it obviously it doesn't sound like it's very common.
um, I feel like cybersecurity level in Kazakhstan has grown a lot over like last 5 years. Like I mentioned, when I was starting out, there weren't many companies with dedicated cybersecurity team. Now almost every large organization has one, or at least cybersecurity specialist within IT department. So yeah, I really glad to see this progress and how security is understood and approached in Kazakhstan right now. In terms of like challenges, I feel for penetration tester, it would be like a difference in technology stacks compared to international market. You can really notice it when you start working globally. For example, like major cloud providers like AWS, GCP, Azure, and so on are still used relatively rarely. Many company relies on local solutions due to mostly data residency laws. Uh, sometimes we need to store data on the servers that are located in Kazakhstan. So, yeah, that means you have to develop region-specific techniques. Sometimes you had to research on your own, um, and but also sometimes, especially in early stages of your career, you may not have a lot of experience with other solutions that are common globally, but just not common in Kazakhstan. Also, like another challenge, I would say, like visibility aspect, being outside of like traditional security hubs means you have to work a little bit harder to be visible internationally. We do have like strong local events, for example, Kazakhstan's conference, which is one of the largest cybersecurity events in Central Asia. But there is always a wish to be a part of like broader and global conversation. So yeah, that's why I'm actively try to participate in international communities. But overall, yeah, still same tools, same stuff. And yeah, we also have several bug bounty programs, bug bounty like platforms that are local. So yeah, I feel like there is a lot of room to grow in Kazakhstan, but also there is a lot of that already done in such short period of time.
That's actually really fascinating. So you guys are almost like this insulated little environment all on your own, where you have your own, technologies and vulnerabilities and conferences and everything else. What what technology are you seeing mostly? Like for example, when I'm in the United States and I'm dealing with corporate environments, it's always Microsoft. It's always AD environments and things like this. Like you mentioned with the cloud, you're going to have Azure, AWS, or something along. But what are you seeing mostly?
Like yes, still we see a lot of Microsoft. I think it's not such a difference. I think in terms of like cloud, a lot of companies that was specific to Russia, like Yandex, they had built our own like departments in Kazakhstan, so it can be like allowed to store data in like servers that are located in Kazakhstan. Yeah, but in terms of programming, yeah, I think pretty much the same. Just some solutions more common than others. So we still like have to fight with outdated WordPress or something like that. Yeah, yeah. I think there is just difference of providers and something like that, but some technologies you would see common.
Sure. Okay. So a cheeky way of asking that question might have been, how often are you utilizing Eternal Blue?
Ah, very often. There's also still a like common problem as everywhere else inside of infrastructure. There always would be outdated Windows servers and stuff.
Oh yeah, indeed. Okay, so you said you've been in the industry for about 5 years, and you've obviously made a lot of progress. What was the biggest kind of misconception you had from like when you wanted to become a hacker to being one? Like what was something that you were like, oh, I thought it was going to be like this, and it turned out to be totally different, if at all.
Um, yeah, I think I had this misconception that actually lasted a little longer than I became a like cybersecurity professional. It's like a role of complexity and vulnerability. Like when you're starting out, you tend to focus on your technical skills, technical side, and you want to prove that you can perform complex exploitation, like chaining multiple stages, crafting sophisticated payloads and stuff. Uh, Partially because you want your team members to look into the report and say, wow, you did that. But in reality, you like really fast learn that um, there is not this type of correlation between impact and complexity of exploitation. It's not correlated this way. Sometimes completely opposite. Sometimes like the easiest vulnerabilities can bring much more impact. Like for example, default credentials would lead to much higher level of compromise that uh, like technically complex cross-site scripting that may have really limited real world impact. So yeah, that shift from chasing like technical elegance and focusing on real world impact was like big mindset changes for me. And actually, I can see it often in my mentees who are also starting out. Like, yeah, they will bring me a report with like um, really complex exploitation of some vulnerabilities and would be really proud of it. And yeah, there is, of course, still a way to be proud, but sometimes during real engagement, you have to focus on real impact than searching for like this interesting vulnerabilities.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, honestly, it's a really, really good way of saying that. I remember a long time ago when I started this, I had very similar ideas, right? Like I was going to make my own stuff. I was going to make some really complex stuff. But you're absolutely right. But that begs one question. What is your go-to, what is your preferred, or what is a method of infiltration that you tend to use a lot? Is it default credentials? Is it password spraying? Is it some, crazy Kazakhstan only exploit that I'm not aware of?
Uh, uh, well, it's a good idea for research, but I mean, I think it's same. Default credentials, yeah, absolutely. Password spraying, especially from data leaks, and yeah, mostly like vulnerabilities in web application, especially in like forgotten staging subdomains that some uh, some time ago they were useful, but now everybody kind of forgot that they exist, and there's a lot of like vulnerabilities that can happen. They occur, and we can exploit it. And sometimes they would not be monitored as hard as um, like main infrastructure would be. So yeah, that's my would be a go-to to start like engagement.
No, I mean, it's an excellent exploit. Yeah, there's so many instances where companies hire had dozens or hundreds of programmers over the year, and those programmers come and go, and nobody remembers that Steve opened up a web portal or a subdomain somewhere like 10 years ago, and nobody ever checked it. And yeah, so it's a very common thing. Um, so you mentioned that there's bug bounty hunting and everything else, and when I was reading over your LinkedIn profile, it mentions that you are on the Ferrari's Responsible Disclosure Hall of Fame. Can you tell me how you did that? Because that's really interesting.
Oh, I have a backstory to it, if you don't mind.
No, please.
um, yeah, I had a somewhat complicated relationship with bug bounty for a long time. Uh, there is like a common narrative about it, like you can work independently and there is like easy money, but that's not always a reality. I tried bug bounty during my first year as a penetration test, and right now I understand that I didn't have much of experience, and I went straight to some company that I was using. It was like known globally, and I actually found something, but I got like out of scope because it wasn't like really relevant. But I at that moment I was so demotivated because I thought it was important, and also like among my colleagues there were often like conversation about how they were spending weeks and found something, submitted, and got a duplicate. So yeah, I decided, yeah, I will not going to proceed in bug bounty. I got this job as a penetration tester, which is kind of seems like more stable because I don't have to compete with thousands of researchers to submit something, like to be first to submit something. But then I noticed that still one of the most common questions for me from like other people, especially in conferences, whether like I like bug bounty or something like that. Uh, and yeah, I don't know why it's like the most common question. I think most of people like it's a really popular topic in cybersecurity. So yeah, I guess other people want to hear about other people experience with that. And then I started to think about like now I work with completely different scope. Like we're talking hundreds, thousands of subdomain. I can um, try to apply this approach right now on bug bounty. It shouldn't be like something completely different. So yeah, I got this idea in mind. So and like for a little, maybe to try when I have a free time. And then I'm actually a Formula One fan, and I was watching Grand Prix. I was thinking like, do these teams have bug bounty programs or something like similar? And then I found like Ferrari has a vulnerability disclosure program. So I decided it would be a great program for me because it's still like very large scope. Um, they probably have some technologies that I haven't mm, got a chance to um, like test against, and also they have a scope that I wouldn't get bored quickly because I still like support this team. Yeah, and actually I feel like my contribution in something that I like would be um, yeah, would be appreciated, and I would like it. So yeah, I spent some time on the scope and found like vulnerability. Yeah, I can't really go into details, but the whole process was really great. I submitted through the official channels. Um, like they quickly acknowledged the report and fixed the vulnerability really quickly, and like inclusion in the Hall of Fame was kind of a way to recognize the contribution. So yeah, it was really great because um, I got to contribute to something I care about. Also, I proved myself that it was about like methodology and skill set more than about like luck, how I used to think. And yeah, this skill set and experience grow over time, and um, that's a way how it works. And also, I got a chance to exploit other technologies, improve my methodology, and then I found like another team that I support, Red Bull, also has a vulnerability disclosure program. So yeah, I tried this new improved methodology, and again, I found something, submitted to them, and this submission was accepted. Um, so yeah, again, process was really great, mature, and I had a pleasure working with them. So yeah, this year I want to try paid programs, but um, yeah, just try to more like a competitive, maybe environment, but not primary as a source of income because I still have my day-to-day job, but as a way to work with different scopes, maybe sharpen my skills, and gain exposure to like diverse environments. So yeah, I can say that at this point, um, I'm doing this mostly for the love of a game. And yeah, it's still it's great to see how my view on some things change over the time.
So you very much are like a, white hat hacker then, yeah? Because you're just doing this for the pleasure of it.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm. Okay, so when you were coming out and you're getting all of these certifications, like for anybody who's interested, like go to her LinkedIn profile. She's got like a dozen or more certifications. And if you don't want to say that's fine. Which certifications would you say are a, something you should definitely go get if you're new into the industry, and which ones would you say are like, you could take it or leave it?
Uh, I think it really depends on timing, like goals and the context of each person. For me, of course, the most valuable certifications would be the practical ones. OCP was very impactful for me at certain point of my career. It helped me build like a strong foundation, but I understand that um, not everyone can buy such expensive certification, and I'm glad to see that there's a lot of alternatives right now with different like price range. Later on, I decided to focus more on like specific certifications, like not as broad as OCP. Um, and there is like two certifications that comes to mind. First is CRTO from Zero Point Security. At that stage, I wanted to move from like traditional testing towards red teaming, and that course helped me to shift into more operation focused mindset. So I like that a lot. And I think second one that really comes to mind, it was kind of my one of the recent certifications, AWS Red Team Expert from Hacktrix. Uh, I needed to get into cloud security fairly quickly as like I'm changing the scopes to from Kazakhstan to global, and yeah, I need something to like dive into AWS really fast. And this course helped me a lot because it covers theory and practice, also explains a lot of common misconfigurations with real world examples. I still have vouchers for Azure and GCP, so they're definitely on my list for this year. And like if we're talking about certifications that aren't worth the time, um, I think any certification taken too early or too late, or just as a checkbox, can be not worth the time. Going after certificate just for sake of having it is not really way to go in my mind, in my opinion. But I understand that sometimes it can be sort of market requirement, like for certain positions or certain industry. But in the end, I think certifications don't create like expertise. They help to structure it, and without applying your knowledge in real environments, the value is very limited. And yeah, over the time, I try to focus on certifications that not as broad, but really focusing on some certain skills or certain areas that I feel like I need to improve. So that's the way how I approach my certifications.
No, I think I think the way that you phrased that was very spot on. I really like the way that you put it. Of just going out for certifications for the sake of doing it is kind of, it may or may not be pointless, but probably the worst mistake you can make is going after a cert too early or too late.
Yeah.
So when you're running engagements, so you've taken the role at this point of both being a member of a team and as a team lead. Out of curiosity, which of these two do you prefer?
Um, oh, they have like I really like the time when I was just a team member, but also I really enjoy my role as a team lead. Um, but the like each role has their own challenges. For maybe as a penetration tester inside the team, you don't have like such you still have to follow some plan. You have to like I cannot go to certain part of the scope because I just like this part of scope. It's distributed among all team members, and I have to work on my own part of the job. And as a team lead, you kind of have a free um, will to like distribute the scope, plan your own processes. I feel like it's much creative, maybe in some ways of saying it. But for me, like the biggest challenge of being a team lead to like let go of some things. Like right now, I cannot do technical work like on my own. I have to share it with my team. And I had to learn to be okay that some things would be made different, not how I would make them. And I had to learn that it's not a bad thing. It's just a new way, and it actually would work maybe even better than I would do that. Yeah, so now it's not sometime some time that I will spend on a project. I would have to dedicate working with the team, uh, making sure that we meet the deadlines, making sure that every report is like we can combine all vulnerability description in one report. So yeah, it's much more time working with the people, not like technical side. But I feel like it's pretty like logical way to grow in penetration testing. Yeah.
So do you have to deal with a lot of do you have to deal with any issues with soft skills? So you had to, you went through the pen testing, the technical, skills, everything else. But do you have any issues with teammates or something when it comes to soft skills? How do you talk to management? How do you talk to the C-suite? How do you write a report? Like any of those kinds of types of things? Like is that pretty easy for you or?
Uh, well, of course, there is always room for improvement because when you are penetration testing and you know about these vulnerabilities, it's kind of this trap of thinking that yeah, everybody understand why this vulnerability is important, and it's always not the case. You have to explain to like executives why this vulnerability is important, and it's not about like really technical side of it. It's about impact. You have to talk in like business terms. You have to switch your mindset. Okay, now we like not technical, we talking about time, money, like losses, uh, like any other harm that it can bring to company, like reputational damage, financial damage, and so on.
Do you have any issues with, clients not understanding like the risks and the impacts?
Yeah, sure. Like especially in my consulting years, um, it was pretty common. But yeah, over time you start to understand how you need to prepare a report in advance, especially like removing this narrative of kind of blaming the company that they have these vulnerabilities, and kind of trying to go from a place you want to help them fix these vulnerabilities. Yeah, and also like there is a lot of common misunderstanding. Sometimes like people don't look at this security the same way you do. Like I think most of security specialists think of security defenses as a multi-layer something. Like I think common analogy would be an onion, and most of the executives think like, oh, we have this solution, it must done like the whole thing, whole security. But yeah, there's I think uh, i I don't have like enough fingers to count when I had a conversation like, you have to fix this web application vulnerability. And as an answer, I would receive, but we have web application firewall. We don't, I would tell that it's not enough. Yeah, for certain patterns, it will work, but what if something goes wrong? Like you will turn on or turn off this and or maybe hackers would find a way to bypass it. Then there's still vulnerability. You're not secure enough. Yeah. But again, sometimes it can be frustrating, but over the years, I think people learn to understand uh, it's not the fault of the client that they do not understand something about security. It's my job to explain them why there is something like needs to be done, why it needs to be done, like explain vulnerabilities, like there are five. Yeah, but it's okay because again, I may not understand something about their work, and that's why we exist. Because if they would know about cybersecurity enough, they would work work on it by themselves.
I mean, that's very fair. That's very true. You have basically the C-suite, and it's not their job to be cybersecurity experts. But
Yeah.
now I know my audience is going to be very curious about this. But have you ever been a part of a physical pen test?
Actually, I no, I would like to, because during like my consulting years in Kazakhstan, it wasn't a very popular service. I'm not really sure if it's right now a popular service, maybe sometimes, but yeah, that's something that I would like to try in the future, like given right context and time.
Well, maybe that's something we could help you out with, get you into that because it's a lot of fun, right? Getting into buildings and getting into server rooms and doing all that kind of stuff. It's a lot of fun. Yeah. Do you get to do any social engineering? Maybe phishing or vishing or any of that kind of stuff?
Yeah, at certain point, I was um, one of specialists in my team about phishing because it was like even prior all the LLM models that would bring like ready phishing text for you. So I kind of got a good skill of writing like really like business like letters. So they don't seem like suspicious. And yeah, like at some point, I really like doing phishing engagements, sometimes like on their own, sometimes as a part of more like global engagement, like red teaming. Um, yeah, there are several like interesting stories about phishing in my career. Um, like one time, um, there was like really strange type of request from one of banks. They wanted to test their like awareness of people because they had like really strict lists of like not really a blacklist but white list of domains that can the employees receive in their mailboxes. So yeah, they invited us to test awareness of their people. And we were talking like, yeah, we will do this kind of infrastructure. Basically, like we will send emails when we will. I don't remember. It was something about HR thing, and people would need to log in on like their business portal, and basically would receive their credentials. But at some point, we were using SMTP relays. I think it was pretty common. Um, but something went wrong. Again, like miscommunication and why soft skills are really important. And they kind of did not include one of like SMTP relays points in their whitelist. So when people received our email, the link was not clickable. And we were at the time in the building. So we kind of started hearing conversations like, is is that a phishing attack? What is going on? And something like that. And I felt like, yeah, that's the end. That's a loss. We messed up completely, and that was actually one of my like first phishing assessments when I was leading a project. And I was like, yeah, we need to do something about that. I cannot leave it as it is. And we that also was because it was like really strange and specific. Um, we could buy a domain and let them include in the whitelist. We don't have to wait like certain amount of time, like 40 days, to make sure it's not triggered. So yeah, we kind of changed the narrative. Like there was a phishing attack attempt, and um, everything is okay, everything is fine. Our security measures, security solutions worked as expected. And now, please, we noticed that I'm like we're telling it really poorly. It was written better, but the thing was like we detected several employees who tried to go to the link. So now everybody has to complete like short course about fiction. And yeah, and the success rate of submitted like credentials were like 70%.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, and like I really like it's still one of my like dragon slaying stories, how like complete failure was turned into like something like even more effective that we thought initially.
Well, that's a very good story for any anybody who's coming up in this. Just because you think you failed something doesn't necessarily mean that it's actually a failure. You could turn it into a success.
Yeah, exactly.
That is actually, I mean, it's really funny how well that works. I know in my line of work, we've purposefully set off alarms in buildings before, and then shown up the next morning as their security staff or their security provider and said, "Yeah, we saw that your alarm went off at this time last night. We're just here to check on it, and we let you inside." So it's funny how that works.
Oh, really? Like again, now I understand it's a really common pretext to initially mess something up and act as a security team. Yeah, great to know that it's also worked in physical pen test.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, this is the genre of offensive security. Is you don't have to build stuff. You just have to break it. You just have to find the holes in the armor, and it's a lot of fun to do it because you get to be creative and do stupid stuff and see if it works.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, do you have any? That said, I mean, that is a really fun war story. But do you have any other like really proud or funny or big war stories that you like to share?
Um, like, yeah, actually
Aside
it's
from being
connected.
Ferrari's, top pen tester, of course, that's a pretty good one.
Thank you. Um, I think another like war story is also connected to phishing engagement. Um, because at some point of my career, I had to switch to like this type of assessments when I get only company name and the primary domain, and now I have this enumerate for the like whole scope, all subdomains, and find basically entry points, not like some small misconfiguration, but the vulnerabilities that really have real world impact. So yeah, we were going through the company and we couldn't really find some obvious technical vulnerability that we can use to gain access. And the and we couldn't like really think of some scenario for phishing because we knew that were a lot of like technical solutions that would basically stop um, employees from going to like certain links. Um, and yeah, basically we thought like, yeah, it could happen. Like that we didn't find the fact that we didn't find some entry points, it's not like the worst outcome. It means company is like mature at some point. But then we were going again through subdomains, like basically through Aquaton report, and we found like a page subdomain, like it was a blank white page, and we were thinking like, okay, it's strange, but of course it could be just some subdomains. Maybe it's in construction state or something like that. Um, and there was like a source code of this page, and we noticed that basically there is nothing but a script tag with some external domain, which is not a part of their infrastructure. We were like, yeah, it's strange, but let's investigate that. Maybe we'll just include in the report that they should not, they need to take a look at this because, and it's not like common domain to include in script tag. And we just tried to use like who is for this domain and found that it was expired and we can buy it. And I was like, yeah, we definitely buying it. Like we just placed some JavaScript page with login page. We just copied one of the services and again, like some logic that will collect credentials and send it to our server, and um, basically we'll just redirect them to original server. And like basically it was kind of a looked like a takeover, but not really a takeover. Basically we just changing dependencies, and yeah, we just decided to send an email. Basically like there is like sudden maintenance that we need to work on original um, service, and here's like a secondary, please use it right now. And yeah, but I think it worked. It probably wouldn't work in most of cases, but in email there was their own subdomain, like no type of squatting, and when they went to the link also was active. They went to the link and no like security alarm that it's like a phishing domain or something like that. Yeah, it we also got like not like super high amount of credentials, but enough credentials to get an entry point. So it was also crazy moment because um like I think um we still don't understand why they got this subdomain with such a strange content. They couldn't also explain. Maybe they just didn't want to explain why they got because firstly we thought maybe it was already takeover, but no like signs of it wasn't like a C name or something that somebody could exploit. Yeah, again, a story when we felt like, yeah, it's the end of an engagement. We cannot find anything. And just like simple misconfiguration led to a really big impact.
No, that's fantastic. I mean, those are some of the best, right? Where you find something really tiny and it turns out to be something catastrophic. That's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you've done phishing attacks, you've done what sounds like internal network attacks, you've done lots of web apps. It sounds like. What's your preference? What do you prefer to do? If you have your choice, what would you like to do most of the time?
Um, at some point of my career, I was like, yeah, I want to do like only infrastructure. I want to go to Active Directory and like perform like Kerberos or something like that. Uh, and like I really grew into like web app after some time because I felt like it's really a great way to get into something. Um, but yeah, right now, I'm not sure if I have some preference. I, and the point is, at this time, during like most common engagement from assessments for me right now, it would be really a combination of everything a little bit like web app, then we would go to internal, and also sometimes we would go for phishing like social engineering.
So in your neck of the woods, what I mean, so let me say it this way. In the United States, what I usually see is most corporate environments are running Windows. Most I would say hipster types are running Apple of some type, and then the nerds are running Linux. Is that roughly what you see in Kazakhstan, like where a lot of the corporate are running some version of Microsoft, and your kind of home people, there's going to be a lot of people out there, like the design type people who maybe HR who are running Apple, those types of products.
I think yeah, pretty much same situation. I think just in terms of Windows and Mac, uh, more common is Windows. Like Mac would be like really like hipsters and designers, sometimes security professionals. Um, yeah, but not really common to see like full organizations running on Mac. Yeah, mostly like Windows.
Do you ever have to go after Linux?
Yeah, absolutely. But I would be surprised to see like someone having a Linux desktop, usually like servers. It's like pretty common go to for any like web server or something like that.
Well, that's fair. I mean, well, it's aside, of course, from like the servers themselves, but yeah. Um, so, out of curiosity, you've been doing this for a while now, and you came about, or it seems like you came into the pen testing scene right about COVID, so that's got to be interesting. But you're also kind of you're right on the cusp of where AI is really starting to come into this. So I'm really curious to get your opinion on what do you think the next 5 to 10 years are going to be for offensive and defensive security with regards to AI, where you have various LLMs that will help you in a lot of crazy ways. I mean, like for example, I don't know if you've ever tried to mutate a virus before, and you run it against Windows Defender, and it says, this is definitely a virus, and then you mutate it a little bit in a hex editor or something, and you throw it back in. You do that back and forth for a while.
Mhm.
Well, eventually it works, right? But AI can do that in like 5 seconds.
Yeah, there is a lot of changes, and the changes with AI are so like rapid, and we're moving fast. And sometimes it's like um, not really comfortable situation when I see a lot of companies implementing AI before even understanding how it works. Like it's like a really like loud word to include in your presentation that, oh, we have AI bot or something like that. Um, in terms of security, yeah, of course, there is also a narrative. AI will replace us. But I think not in 5 years. There's a lot of ways to when people are still needed. There's a lot of maybe AI can replace doing like repetitive work or like some common patterns, but in terms of researching and identifying new techniques, I think it's more on the human side. But still, AI can be used right now in terms of not really replacement, but as a um, support, I think. Like a quick, like, well, how I would use it. Sometimes when I encounter some like technology, and I would just like what it is like, or can you explain me like I'm five and something like that. Yeah, it can be still done with Google search, but a little more time and you have like a quick answer. But I think it can be used only as a initial stage, and then you have to research it on your own, because also like not really great trend I can see in terms of not only like security professionals, also like a lot of people do that, but I think in terms of security it can lead to worse consequences when people over rely on AI, uh, like prepare me some solution and they would not recheck it, or like tell me about something and they won't also recheck information, like fact check it. um yeah, and it can lead to much bigger problems that they started with. So yeah, um I think we need to learn how to use it firstly.
Do you think that, so with some of the AIs, and I'm not going to name companies, I know that some AIs on the defensive side are using, what are they calling it? It's like behavioral analysis to see not so much if something looks like a virus, but is this behavior that the user is doing different than normal? So if the secretary doesn't normally go to the, remote into the archives and like start downloading everything, right? Like it'll flag that as suspicious. So, do you think that that's going to, like? How do you think that offensive security people are going to deal with the fact that defensive security people are starting to implement more AI for like behavioral analysis and stuff like that?
Oh, that would be like definitely harder for some assessments. Like, yeah, it was actually done at some point by people from security operation team. Like you go through logs like CMs and see some unusual activity. But yeah, it's also a human behind the screen, and they might miss something. And when it would be implemented with AI, definitely won't be like a much lower chance that it would be missed. So yeah, I think red teamers would just have to improve their techniques, like basically be really aware and always have in mind of the context of like credentials you're using, on which machine are you working with right now. Yeah, just probably would make life a little harder, but that's the point of red team. We always try to adapt to any like situation we're in.
Absolutely. And you had mentioned, so you've done all the pen testing stuff, you've done the social engineering stuff, and depending on what source you look at, anywhere from 50% up to 80% of all major breaches have some human components, right? Somebody clicked on something they shouldn't, somebody downloaded a file they shouldn't, or something else. Um, do you think that that's going to get, like, do you think that that's going to become easier, or like, because I'm okay, so let me back up for a second. I'm always ambivalent or 50-50 on, is security going to get better with AI, or security going to get worse with AI? Because it's kind of like AI is basically fighting AI at this point, right? Like we can make, I'm sure you've heard the stories of like the poor soul in Hong Kong who got tricked by somebody using like an AI mask and
Mm-hmm.
pretended to be the CTO and told them to transfer like $50 million, and the poor person fell for it. But then at the same time, you're getting AI defenses that are much more clever. So it's really interesting to see. Is it going to get better? Is it going to get worse? I don't know.
Oh, really interesting. And I actually also don't know. Like it's, I guess it would be just a race, like who will implement it better, who will train the like people to work with it better. Like, of course, I feel like there's always fishing like courses, like training in inside of companies, and like I think a lot of companies already introduced some training about AI, like about deepfakes and stuff like that. Yeah, I think it would be a race, and I hope defensive side would win. In terms of, yeah, in terms um, of course, for me as a penetration tester, it would be um, a little bit difficult, but I would prefer it than that some threat actors would exploit it.
Yeah. Okay. So now, when it comes to so from your perspective as a professional, what assumptions do you think the defense are making that are probably the wrong assumptions these days? Like if you could tell the defense something, give them a piece of advice from your perspective, what advice would you give the defenders of today for cybersecurity?
Oh, uh, really interesting, like assumptions. I think, of course, there's a lot of, um, oh, yeah, as you mentioned, like data leaks and stuff. I feel like sometimes defenders feel like there's a certain borders of security that they have to implement, and borders of security are the same borders as infrastructure borders, but in reality, it's not like the same. These borders are blurring like really rapidly because I feel like users are using some tools that can be outside of uh, like common infrastructure, like developers would use, like say GitHub or something like that, and like basically it's not a part of your infrastructure. How you would implement some defenses. Also, I like my a friend of mine had really great research about Postman, like how people would go and publish some API endpoints, API endpoints, and like maybe even examples of requests in worst cases, even credentials. And basically, for me as an attacker, I can go to this Postman, like search the company name and find a lot of information that can be used even without scanning or even touching the infrastructure of the company. And yeah, at some point it's not a part of the infrastructure, but it's like the users of this same company. And for users, it can be like not really significant. Maybe somebody would not pay attention if it's like a public or private repository or something like that. Yeah, and for like red teamers or maybe for threat attackers, it's also a great source of information. And for defenders, it's like a really sometimes point of weakness because and even like recommendation what to do with it. Like basically train your employees and try to like um, implement certain scanning of maybe some keywords and try to close and detect possible leaks before somebody would use it, and like of course like rotation of credentials, it's really important.
Well, even something as simple as two-factor authentication. Because if I run onto Dhashed right now and I pay the what $7 or whatever, and I start gobbling up credentials and stuff, I mean, come on, humans are humans. If I find out that Sally, if I find her Gmail account and I find out that that's her work account, there's a pretty good chance that she's going to be using the same credentials on both. So
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, it just something simple like that. I mean, yeah, absolutely. Um, it is funny how really seemingly big complex problems like how do you handle people putting stupid stuff on Postman or GitHub or data leaks from companies like you mentioned at the very beginning of the podcast where companies leak all of your data including passwords and all kinds of stuff. It's interesting that that seems like an insurmountable problem until you're like, well, there's really only a couple ways you can exploit that, and you can chop off a big part of that just by using two-factor authentication. I mean, it doesn't
yeah,
solve all the problems, but it does solve a lot of it.
yeah. uh like but there's a lot of still points when um maybe some API when there is no way to implement a multi-factor, and we can just reuse these credentials and find another way to use it. Yeah, there's always like, again, as we previously talked about, like layers of security, and yeah, try to implement as many as you can, but there would be always a human factor of somebody just leaking information because they didn't thought it would be important.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The human factor is always going to be the weak one, right? I mean, it doesn't matter like with the physical security side of things. The number of times I've had people tell me like, well, we have unclonable badges and we're using, secure communications for the back end of the communication of the access control stuff. And it's like, okay, yeah, fine, but I tailgated into your building 10 times over, right? Like it doesn't matter how much technology you use if the humans suck.
Yeah.
Um, so the one question that I'm always curious about, and I know a lot of people who are just starting to get into the industry, who are trying to get into cybersecurity. Okay, actually, before I ask this question, so you had previously stated that you don't think that AI is going to take all of our jobs in the next 5 years. So you give the endorsement that people should still be going out for these careers in the next 5 years, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good to know. That's a good starting point. So now that we've cleared that up, what would you tell people who are starting out, who are trying to get into this? What would you tell them to do? What if you could kind of go back to yourself when you were starting out, what advice would you give yourself?
Um, yeah, a lot of things to mention. Like um how I felt like when I was starting out and I was trying to contact all these communities, like go to some conferences. I feel like, oh, like everybody is so successful. Everybody is like knows so much stuff. And right now I'm just trying to remember some common Linux commands and something like that. And like and at some point it's I everybody needs to learn how to say like I don't know it yet, and that's okay. And especially during interviews, like it's really like logical thing, and everybody knows it. Like nobody can know everything. Um, and but during interviews, there's such a disaster when you cannot answer one question. Like yeah, it's the end of the world. But there's not really about like to know everything. It's more about, and I also try to like catch it doing when I like interview somebody for a position. It's not about the fact of knowing everything. It's about the fact how you handle something you don't know. And I would prefer uh like honesty over trying to bluff and like try to answer one question with uh, something like close but not really an answer to this question. uh, and I would prefer to see a thinking process of a person, like what they know, what they encounter, and uh, how they what they would try to do about something they don't know. Maybe like based on things they already know, they can think it through and find solution. It also happened a lot of times. Or maybe if that's not the case, to tell about how they would approach um, on closing that gap, what they would do, like read some articles or researches, maybe like find some practical labs or something like that. Yeah, I think it's big, big problem that people who are going to security may encounter. And I think there's a lot of areas of um, penetration testing. And at some point, you think that you need to know every area. Like, I need to know how to do mobile, I need to know how to do web, also infrastructure. And on Friday, I would do like cloud pen test or something like that. And yeah, it's not always the case. At some point, you would, yeah, and you will find your specialty. But also it's okay to try everything a little, like to find what better suits you, what you're really interested in. Yeah. So like I don't really want people who are coming to this industry to feel overwhelmed, and especially to fear about like, oh, I'm not smart enough, that community would not accept me. And it's completely fine. Maybe I would talk to someone on the conference. I would tell about like, yeah, even right now, like you can tell me about physical pen test and like for my during my 5 years in this industry, and I never done it, and that's okay. I just would be really happy to hear more about it, and that's what really great about community, that we can exchange ideas and talk about everything. And yeah, I would like to see less gatekeeping about some areas and some skills, and I see less um, that that's really great. And also maybe another advice, how I actually what helped me a lot, um like during your studying process, it's always great to make some kind of a post or maybe YouTube videos, because it's like the best way to learn something, to explain this thing to somebody, because yeah, you can learn, you can know about something at good level, but when you start explaining to somebody, now you will find some gaps, or maybe this somebody would ask a question and you will find the gap. And when you prepare like materials for your like blog post or something like that, you basically cannot afford to like ignore these gaps. Now like you can see it clearly, you have to work on them. Yeah, and that's a great way to not just skip this parts when during like day-to-day work you would just skip it and not pay attention.
No, that was okay. So for everybody listening to this, I encourage you to really like re-listen to her answer to that because there was so much to unpack. There were so many good pieces of advice there. I could go down a lot of rabbit holes for what you just said. So right off the bat, when you were talking about, don't be so stressed out about if you make a mistake on an interview, yeah, realize that you're in like when you're going into an interview, you're interviewing the company as much as they're interviewing you, right? Like if you come across somebody and you get 99 questions out of 100, but that one question you failed at, they make you feel like an idiot and like a failure because you didn't get that question right. You don't want to work for those people. Those type, like if somebody's going to make you feel terrible for making a mistake on an interview, I could use a lot of bad words here, but they're not somebody that you want to work with.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
and it's realize that like it's and like what you said, where nobody can know everything. It's when I've been doing this for 20-ish years, 25 if you count university and all of that. But when I'm doing 6 months of nonstop physical engagements, then I go back to cyber. I'll be sitting next to somebody who's doing cyber nonstop, and they'll be saying like, "Oh, did you use this tool to go after this exploit?" And I'll just look at them and go, "I have no idea what you're talking about." Because something came
Yeah.
out in the last 6 months, but I didn't even know this was a thing, right? Um, I was at a conference a little while ago, not public conference, with some exceptionally bright individuals, and I was giving a presentation, and I challenged these people, and these are like the people at the very top of government when it comes to hacking. So there's some really really good hackers out there, and I challenged them. I said, I'll give any one of you $1,000 if you can tell me what the latest CVE is on exploit DB. And not one of them could. How could you, right? Because every 5 minutes
Yeah.
something else is coming out, and you're like, you can't possibly stay on top of everything. So the idea that you can be an expert on, like an up-to-date expert on every aspect of pen testing, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I agree with that.
But
It's always like shoot for the stars, but but sometimes we need to be realistic, uh, and you cannot spend your whole 24 hours a day just for security. You have your own life outside of work, and yeah. we need to like try to make it work.
You do, and it's you can't. I mean, this is why you have a team, right? Like you're collaborating minds, right? You can't just be the one man show who just knows everything because you will fail. You will not get everything. It's not going to happen. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, but okay. But all of that said, I do really like the way that you answer that question. There's a lot of good pieces of information in there. But that said, what do you as a team lead look for in a new hire?
Um, like yeah, of course, depending on position, like some technical skills I would of course test it. Um, and that's would be like a pretty common requirement. But sometimes I feel like there's more than just technical skills. You would call it like soft skills. Um, you can genuinely feel a person like if they curious about this profession, do like they really aspire to be a good specialist. Is it just and that's what I really cherish because I can like see that this type of people would spend their time researching and trying to improve. They would not be satisfied. Oh, it's working, just don't touch it. They will try to improve the process. And that's like the best people to work with. Um, and also like I think really honesty and integrity, like yeah, as we mentioned, like it's okay to say I don't know, just don't pretend and spend somebody like hour to then say that actually all you said like it's not something like even worth considering because it was just a bluff. um and also I think how people solve problems, and especially like there is like slogan for offensive security like try harder, but I think yeah, and like this philosophy that you have to work on a problem by yourself, try to find some ways and bring me like some description about like what you tried, what didn't work, why you think it didn't work before like just I don't know, and that's it. Like help me to do that. And during interviews, of course, it can be not like really tested, but you can see how people sometimes can try to explain their thought process during some questions. It was like yeah, I would much prefer see a thought process than just like answer because I think it's also like another really good way to see if this person behind the screen using like some helpers during interviews, because yeah, I would just give an answer. Wait, they would give like thank you for this interesting question and then proceed with the answer. And when you will give whole thought process, it seems like more genuine. Yeah, and like also being a good team member, because like pen testing is a team sport. We work as a team, we prepare reports, we share scope, we exchange our expertise. And I would um, rather to see a person who maybe don't know it all yet, but they really want to learn and really um, great person to work with than just like rock star, but it's like a really pain to work with because um, like no way this person would listen to you and try to understand your point of view or something like that. Yeah, like technical side depends on each position a company are looking for, but this like soft skills will work for every uh, job, I think.
Yep, that's absolutely true. The social engineering, soft skills, and anything along those lines are applicable to every interaction you'll have with a human on any level. So it's
Yeah,
absolute. I might not always need to pick a lock or to break into a web app, but talking to people, yeah, you'll be doing that on everything you do with life. So very, very true.
yeah.
Okay, Katerina, the last question that I wanted to ask you is, what do you think the security industry, whether it's defensive, offensive, or anything else, what do you think we should be talking about more? What do you think that we're not talking about enough as an industry?
Oh, yeah. Really interesting question because I think from now on then we are talking about like new vulnerabilities, new tech, new like skills or methodology or new tools. But in the end of the day, it's a still human who do this job. Yeah, at least for now, are not replacing us. And um, and I think that industry should talk about sustainability, not about like sustainability of systems, but of people. Like security teams are often expected to work in high pressure, um, and this high pressure, like this high intensity, is constant, and which isn't like realistic, like long term. And like I think building processes and cultures that allows human to learn, recover, and improve over time is just as important as building like this technical defenses and like taking care of people who are doing security is a part of doing security, I think, because like burnout is a real thing.
No, it really is. And I mean, yes, it's absolutely true. I 100% agree with you. There's a lot of companies out there that will almost expect that they're going to burn out their team, and they have like a annual turnover rate of how many people they're expecting to leave because they've kind of overworked them. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, honestly, and you can see this on LinkedIn when you see people who are like, worked at company A 1 year, worked at company B 1 year, you see that.
Yeah, yeah,
That's a fairly good indicator. But that's a fantastic thing. I agree with you. We should be talking about that more, and I don't think we are at all.
yeah, because it's not really pretty to talk about. Like, it's not. It can. There are not a lot of like loud words that you can put in your presentation. It's much easier to say that you come up with new tool or some like new technology than about people who are working with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you very much for chatting with me today. It's been fascinating. I've really enjoyed chatting with you. I've loved learning about how pen testing is going in Kazakhstan. It was fascinating. Uh, but thank you very much for being on today.
Thank you for having me. It also was a pleasure for me to talk with you today.
All right. Well, thanks for being over here. Thanks for being here, everybody. All right, take care. Bye bye.